Today I am ranking every pre-show in Walt Disney World. Now Disney has some great pre-shows and they have some not so great pre-shows. But what they do definitely have is a ton of pre-shows. And a pre-show can be great. It can add storytelling, it can make you laugh, or in some cases it can make you very bored. I believe pre-shows do play a part in the Disney World experience and in an attraction experience and can definitely elevate an attraction, but in some of these cases I think it also takes away from it. So we're going to break down each pre-show and I'm going to rank them from worst to best. We obviously have some bad ones, we obviously have some great ones, and I have some honorable mentions that I don't even know if they count as a pre-show. So at the end I'll tell you these honorable mentions. You tell me if you think it actually counts as a pre-show and I'll tell you where I would have put them. Without further ado, let's get right into this ranking list, starting off at number 13. Now, coming in at number 13 is Flight of Passage, their pre-show. I cannot stand this pre-show. The reason for this is the past couple times I've done it, I've been stuck in this pre-show room for a long period of time. And I know that's because either something's going wrong in the next room or it's a little delayed in the next room. However it so be, it is a brutal pre-show to be stuck in. How many times I can be told to move around a little and we're going to fly? No, because this pre-show sucks. Get that the acting is supposed to be bad. He's supposed to be a scientist. He's not supposed to be an actor. He's supposed to be this advanced, super smart scientist who's kind of socially awkward. I get it. It's just so tough to be in there. It is a little bit too long for my liking, even when it's working well. When you're stuck there, it's absolutely brutal. People go, well, it's better than waiting in line. I don't necessarily agree with that if you're stuck in this one. Because you're in there, everybody is kind of like, the people who have been on it kind of know this, so they're just kind of like, oh, whatever. But the people who are on it for the first or second time are kind of confused, like if this is actually going on. And you don't want to necessarily talk because you don't want to interrupt the other people and if it gets going. But so you can't even like talk to your friends or your family or anything like that to kind of pass the time. You're just kind of awkwardly in here with strangers. On top of the pre-show just not being very good. And it's just a little too long for me. I think it definitely hurts. I would prefer to just, after the long wait of Flight of Passage, to just get into that loading chamber. I get this kind of buffers it. I get why it's there. It's just not efficient to me. And when you get stuck, it is brutal. It's my number 13. It's my least favorite pre-show by far. And number 12 is Monsters, Inc. Laugh Floor. Now this is the pre-show before the Laugh Floor. Now I think the Laugh Floor is an underrated attraction. I think it's pretty cool because it's a little different each time you go. A lot of it's the same, but it's a little different and it adjusts to the audience, which I think is cool. The pre-show, on the other hand, stinks. I mean, you are loaded into this room and it's very spread out, so you're kind of like fighting to keep your place there. So you either cramp up with people or you just kind of wait. Again, you don't really have to fill in super much there. It's a big theater. I usually like to go and head right towards the back couple. That way I don't really end up on screen much, and I usually don't have to fight for a seat back there to get a good seat. Pre-show, it tries to do some funny things, but a lot of the jokes really don't land at all. Even though they're cheesy and they're supposed to be, a lot of them, they just don't land. And then it just kind of is quiet in there when they tell the jokes, but then you usually have a ton of screaming kids in there. I love Monsters, Inc. This just really doesn't do it for me. I don't think it's executed super well. The whole purpose of it is, again, to pretty much just get text in jokes. You know, you can text in jokes or whatever. The pre-show is just, it's whatever. And the fact that you're in there with a bunch of families, it gets loud, screaming kids on top of a pre-show that really isn't that great, it falls towards the bottom of my list. Number 11 is a pre-show for another show, The Tiki Room. I have not seen this pre-show in forever. I actually had to watch a YouTube clip just to kind of remind myself, and then I was like, yeah. I'm not a huge fan of The Tiki Room. I like Disney history, so I can respect the Tiki Room as this original Disney feeling attraction, and the pre-show matches that. It's like, you know, very budgeted, Disney feeling pre-show into a Disney feeling show. Don't expect much of anything. It's fine, especially for the Tiki Room. That's all I got for it. I don't have much compliments. I'm not a fan of the Tiki Room, so I'm definitely not a fan of this. And I don't think it deserves to be higher on this list, to be honest, at all. If you made an argument this is the worst, I would say that's fine, because it's really a whole lot of not much. At number 10, I'm putting Mission Space. If you haven't seen the Mission Space pre-show in a while because you don't like Mission Space, I totally get it. This pre-show is completely just fine. I guess it sets up the attraction rather well, but there's no crazy storytelling. There's no awesome effect. There's none of that. I like Gina Torres because I'm a fan of Suits, so I like that. She's really cool. In the pre-show, again, it's just whatever. It is just fine. It's not like overwhelmingly bad, but there's nothing really cool here that it can kind of hang its hat on to be like, yo, this is a good pre-show. It's just fine for a fine attraction. Fine attraction, fine pre-show, that's fair, but it's at the bottom of the list. Number 9 is Star Tours. This is similar to Mission Space, as you're kind of just watching something right before you board a simulator attraction. At least with the Star Tours one though, there's a little humor. I like the Star Tours queue, and you kind of get up to the pre-show and you load Star Wars humor. It's fine, but at least with a little humor twist as opposed to Mission Space. So for that reason, it gives a little boost. But again, similar to Mission Space, you're just kind of watching a TV. There's no special effect. There's nothing super standoutish about it. It's just a pre-show that sets up an underrated attraction. Star Tours, because of the underrated attraction and because of the little humor, I bumped this a little bit above Mission Space. But again, nothing special there. Coming in at number 8 is Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. Now, a lot of people might have this higher on this list. I get that. It's more so the pre-show is just so long. The process of it is annoying to me now as a continuous repeat rider. And the way it makes people act drives me crazy. Pre-show, you go into a room after waiting in a queue, you do that, and then you go into another room, you do that, and then you have to go into another line to get on the ride. That, to me, is too much and takes away from the experience. You obviously have the beginning part with Terry Crews. What do they call themselves? And everybody screams out, alcoholics, day drinkers, Disney adults, shut up! I hate when people are talking during pre-shows and reciting it, because there's people there for the first time. This isn't just your world. Let them enjoy the attraction for what it is. And I feel like the pre-show sets it up for people to do that. And it was funny when the ride first came out in like 2022, and now people make those same jokes, and it just, ugh. More and more times now I go into the second room and the transport effect isn't working, and that really takes away from it. Even if it is working, there's like other cool effects going on, and people just rush the doors and just try to get into the doors, and nobody knows how to behave, and that's not necessarily the pre-show's fault, but the way it's designed, you already have people who have been waiting for a while, so they're impatient, they want to get going. You have people that have done it so many times. I just wish there was a way that it queued through there. You know, Jurassic World Velocicoaster at Universal, I love the way they do the pre-show for Velocicoaster. It's once you get through the metal detector, so everybody has to put their phone away, and it's just a queue as you walk through, and it continuously plays on a loop. I understand that necessarily wouldn't work here, but I would love for one day the pre-shows to get reworked somehow where this would work. That's just my one hope, because the way people behave in this just kind of ruins it for me. And it's just too long. Because the pre-show's too long, people are like, get me on this ride already. And even the premise of it, it's like, hey, we got to get you to these evacuation shuttles, but once you get out of this room, you're going to be waiting another 10, 15 minutes. It's like, I just don't love it. I don't love it. It's my number 8. Sorry, it is what it is. Number 7 is soon to be gone, Rock and Roller Coaster. I think this is a perfect length pre-show. You get in there, you do it. It's very quotable. It sets up the ride perfectly well, because they're like, hey, we're going to get you on a super stretch fast limo. And as soon as you walk out of the pre-show, super stretch fast limo that takes off. So I just think it works very well. It introduces you to the idea of why you're going to be on that ride, so it increases the storytelling a little bit there. It's not super long. It's interactive with the cast member there. It's quotable. It's memorable, but it's not too long. It doesn't take away too much from the attraction. And then as soon as you get out there, you usually don't wait super long unless you're in the single rider line. The single rider line here stinks. But if you're not in the single rider line and your regular line, by the time you get there, it's a quick pre-show, and then you get out. It moves very well. The only reason it's kind of down a little bit low on this list, depending on where you're standing, if you're towards the back of the room, it can honestly be kind of hard to see. That's kind of the only thing. It can get busy in there, and if you're in the back, you just have a lot of heads anyway. But I think it's fine. It fits the ride. It moves the story along, and it's not too long. And when you come out, you immediately see what they're talking about in there. So I like that part. It's not unbelievable. It's not some of the best, but it's definitely not some of the worst. It's in the middle of my list. It's my number 7. Number 6 is Smuggler's Run. Now, I typically don't see this pre-show a ton because I do the single rider line, but I think this is a very good pre-show for a not-so-great ride. And the ride itself is okay, especially if you're the pilot. But if you're anything else, I know they're kind of making some additions next year to kind of enhance that, and I'm excited for that. But right now, the ride itself, if you're the engineer, you're just pressing a button. It's cool, but it's nothing special. But the pre-show is great. It has a legit animatronic that looks good. You see Chewie in that. You see the Millennium Falcon come down. The pre-show itself is very solid. It pushes the story along. It helps the ride make sense as to what you're doing. And like I said, animatronics and pre-shows, I love. I love that type of budget in a pre-show, and this one definitely does that very well. Big fan of Smuggler's Run's pre-show. Not the biggest fan of the ride, but definitely worth it, especially for first-time visitors and first-time people who are riding it. And it's really cool to see that animatronic for sure. Number 5 for me is Soarin'. I love the Soarin' pre-show. It's one of my most quotable pre-shows, I think, in any theme park there. I'm sure if you're a big Disney fan, you've said, "Nice work, pal," at some point in time in your life. I like the way that it shows you in advance before the technical pre-show, but the screen shows you everywhere you're going to visit, so it kind of builds that anticipation, that hype. It does the boarding instructions, so it kind of explains that in a good way. It's full with some fun characters and some memorable things, like taking the Mickey ears off, and again, the "Nice work, pal," like I already said. It moves pretty well, and like I said, it shows you where you're going, and then when we get to the actual talking part of the pre-show, it gives you a look at the ride vehicle so you can anticipate that, boarding instructions, and it's just solid. It moves well, it's efficient, and then gets you going. So of all the pre-shows, this is definitely up there for me. It's got some nostalgia there too now at this point in time. Soarin's been around for a while, but a good pre-show for sure. 4 is Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. I love this pre-show. I think it's very good. First, it shows you the animated short, so you go in there and you kind of see that, but then it takes it to a whole different level with the effect. Once, the train crashes, and then it kind of expands the screen, and you get to literally step into the cartoon. That is what pre-shows are for. It builds the story and actually invites you to go into the world, into Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. That is what I'm talking about. That is a good pre-show. And I love that you go in one way and then you leave through that screen. That is just super well done. The effect is really cool. I remember the first time I did it, I wasn't absolutely in love with the attraction. I think it's a good attraction, but not a great one. But I absolutely loved that. From a storytelling perspective, from bringing people into the cartoon, it does that very well. It does its job. Catchy theme song as well. I think it's a great pre-show. Number 3, and soon to be gone, rest in peace, Dinosaur. I love the Dinosaur pre-show. This sets it up super well as well. You go through the queue of dinosaurs, great, because you're in this, exhibit, and you're seeing the dinosaurs and stuff. It builds that. You hear Bill Nye, all that stuff. And then you go in there, the pre-show, they introduce you to the dino exhibit and what they're kind of doing with the time rover. And then you have Dr. Seeker, who kind of, you can already see is like, a little ambitious and to play some risky business, and is inviting you to do that. It's super quotable. I quote it all the time. "Hello there. Access denied." I do it all the time, and nobody picks up on it unless they go to Disney too. For fun. It's not super long. You're only in the one room, and then you get to the ride, and usually move pretty efficiently once you get out of this pre-show. So that's another key part in these pre-shows, is after the pre-show, do you move pretty efficiently? Not like Guardians level, where you come out of those doors and sometimes you're waiting a long time before you get to the ride again. So I think it all works very well. I will miss this pre-show for sure. I'm very interested to see if they do it like Indiana Jones in Disneyland when it becomes Indiana Jones, where you're kind of just walking through and you kind of see this like pre-show in this screen. I would like that at this point. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to go, but I will miss this pre-show. I will miss it, but I will still be quoting it for the rest of my life. 2 is Tower of Terror, one of the best pre-shows for one of the best attractions in Disney World. This attraction is a master of storytelling in the theme parks to me. One of the things I love about Tower of Terror, and I cannot stress it enough because there's only a few rides that do this, is you get hyped for Tower of Terror the second you pull into the parking lot and you see Tower of Terror. And then you hear the screams as you go down Sunset Boulevard and you get hyped. And then this pre-show continues to elevate that. It is a perfect part of a perfect attraction. You go up there, you're starting to build up to this hotel, you go into the lobby, and then you go into this room and you see the story that brings you into the Twilight Zone. It explains the story of what happened to the hotel, why you're about to experience what you're about to experience, and then brings you into a creepy boiler room before you load onto this attraction. It builds the hype very well. It tells the story and keeps you in this mode, in this story. Makes you forget where you're at for a second. This helps keep you in that story, and that's what a pre-show should do. It's great. It sets the tone. It's awesome. I love it. It's my number 2. Number 1 is maybe the most iconic pre-show in the history of Disney, and that's the Haunted Mansion, the stretching room. This is a pre-show done right. You go in through the queue. It builds up very well, similar to Tower of Terror. And then you have the stretching room. Pre-show begins. And the whole spiel I know by heart. Again, another quotable one there. I love the part where it says, this chamber has no windows and no doors. And it's almost like the first time you do it for people I've seen, they're like, oh wow, wait, there is no doors. Like, how did we almost even get in here? Like, where do we go next? You don't know if it's your first time. You don't understand or get that and stuff, which is why I hate when people decide to say the spiel out loud and this chamber has no windows, no doors. I didn't pay to come here to listen to you do it. I paid to listen to the ghost host. Let the ghost host do it. Again, the whole world doesn't revolve around you. Let other people enjoy the Disney trip, especially the first time. Yourself, or you kind of mouth it or whatever, and you're like that. Cool, that's fine. But like, you know who I'm talking about. The people that recite it very loud, and it's like, okay, we get it. You've been here before. Don't ruin this iconic pre-show. It's great. The thing that I'm still wondering about is if eventually they are going to remove the ending of that pre-show, which, if you don't know what I'm talking about, is the part where they cut to the ceiling and there's a guy, he's gone. And I just don't know if that's going to stay in a Disney attraction. Because if you think about it on paper, it is kind of crazy that a visual of a man who just did that is in a Disney attraction. It is kind of crazy. Now, I understand why people might say they think they should take it out. I totally get it. I also understand people that are like, no, it's been there for years. We can do a warning sign, or there's kind of, I think, warnings for it, that not everything is suitable. So I understand that from a history perspective and from it making sense for the story of Haunted Mansion, because again, this furthers the story into what you're about to walk into. And so I get both sides there. I have a side on this. If it ends up getting removed, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, but I also will understand why people are upset. But I also understand what people might be upset about if they've experienced something as awful as that in their life and they didn't expect it in a Disney attraction. I can understand that too. So I'm very much interested. Either way, when the decision happens, if it does happen, I know it's going to be very controversial, but I still think it'll be the best pre-show, and I think there's other ways around it, but we'll see. So to me, the most iconic pre-show in Disney, I think this would be probably the majority of people's number ones. I don't know what would be other people's number ones. Maybe Tower of Terror, I could understand that, but I don't think like Dinosaur and Soarin', as much as I love them, come close to Haunted Mansion between the storytelling, the set piece, the stretching room, the elements. I don't think anything comes close to this, to be honest. The only thing I hate about it is not even, it's after the pre-show, that bottleneck area to get onto the Doom buggies. I don't love that. It's nitpicking or whatever, but I just wish they had something better after that, whatever. So my two honorable mentions, I said there was two. I guess Tron, some people count it, some people don't, where there's the reveal to that. I think that's very cool, but it doesn't really feel like much of a pre-show to me. It just kind of seems like a cool element of the queue. But if I was putting that somewhere, it's not going to be high. I'd probably have it like in between Tiki Room and Mission Space, because it's not really much of a pre-show to me, but it's a cool effect. So I probably wouldn't have it dead last, because it doesn't hurt the experience for me. It does make it cool, but it doesn't really add much of a pre-show vibe to me. So I'd put it towards the bottom. The other one is Rise of the Resistance, that a lot of you were thinking. My question is, when is the pre-show? I think Rise of the Resistance, it's one of my favorite attractions of all time, and it's so unique in this sense of pre-show. Is it the Ray Room? Because the Ray Room's pretty cool. I'd probably put it up there close to the top 5, 6 maybe. I'd probably put it somewhere around Soarin' and Mickey and Minnie's for me, if it's just the Ray Room. But then you have the part where you're on the ship, which is great, but I don't know where, is that a pre-show as well? And then you have the reveal with the Stormtroopers, which I guess is in a pre-show. And then you have the Kylo Ren room. So I'm like, what counts as the pre-show? Does that all count as the pre-show? Does only one of it count as the pre-show? If it's the Ray room and just the Ray room, it's probably like I said right there. All of them in their own will probably be to the top 5. But to me, Rise of the Resistance is just, to me, the ride is an experience. It's an attraction in its own sense. True, it's an attraction. Pre-show is the Ray room, and then after that, the attraction begins. Just how I view it, but I could understand where you count all of them. I don't know. And I'm not going to put 4 different Rise of the Resistance pre-shows on here either, if that makes sense. So if you're counting any of those, they're all to me close to the top 5, in the top 5 to me, somewhere in there. I just don't know. To me, the only one that I can truly count is the Ray pre-show room, and then after that, the attraction begins. Let me know what you think about that in the comments, though. And as always, let me know your list in the comments. I'll be sure to judge you. And remember one thing, if you disagree with me, you're wrong. This week, many more rankings to come, many more vlogs coming soon as well, so I'm excited to get back into that. I appreciate you watching, and I will see you on Sunday.